for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this. Multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What is going on, guys? All right, welcome to episode 199 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I am your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We are live every Wednesday night on Facebook Live, formerly Periscope, now Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, syndicated in all podcast networks, and streaming the Going For Two app for iOS and Android. If you are on YouTube, please hit and subscribe. Those like buttons there for me, and drop a comment down below. And real quick, I did mention at the top, this is episode 199. So this Sunday will be our special 200th episode. We're doing a 32-team live mock draft for the NFL draft, so make sure you tune into that. Without further ado, let me introduce my co-host, Mr. Ryan Steerfoss. Ryan, how you doing tonight?
Good, man. Ready to talk about, let's take a break from talking strictly draft for a episode. Because I feel like we've been on that so long now, but we take a little break and refresh.
Yeah, definitely. Also joining us tonight, you can follow her on Twitter at unicorn_fringe. She is a contributor at Fansided and True North Fantasy and co-host of the Fantasy Fringe podcast. Miss Unicorn, how are you doing tonight?
Hey guys, doing good. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Glad to have you on the show. All right. And also, all my cameras are all screwed up here. Excuse me, guys, while I fix that. This is what happens when we have technical difficulties. Let me get my camera set here really quick. Ryan on 2. And there we go. And then we're going to go to Scott on camera 4. Scott, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. Obviously, Scott, everybody pretty much knows you, but we can follow you on Twitter at ScottFish24, creator of the Scott Fish Bowl, Fantasy Cares, host of the Commission Impossible podcast with Ryan McDowell and Run Safe Leagues. Anything else that I missed there?
No, that's good. You can just stop there. I feel like sometimes I do way too many things, and I like when we keep it short.
Good stuff. All right, so we got a great show tonight, guys. We're a little bit late here, so we're going to try to get through all this stuff tonight and not keep y'all too late. But before we do that, I want to give you both just a quick minute to talk about yourself. I'll go to you first, Unicorn.
Oh no. Talk about myself. I don't know if there's anything anybody really cares to know, but yeah, I recently got connected with the guys at True North. They're super awesome. I know they have a lot of great stuff that's coming out soon once the website's ready to relaunch. So I'm super excited about that. And I just can't wait for the draft already. I feel like the off season has been just forever long, right?
Agreed. I agree. I feel like we've been talking about rookies now forever. It feels like that's why I had to kind of mix up a little bit, do something different than talking about rookies tonight.
It's been 3 months straight of it.
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot. Scott, anything going on you want to talk about that we didn't already mention as far as what you got going on?
No, I'm good. That initial wave of SFB invites will be coming soon. The settings will be discussed soon, which will be good. But mostly, I'm like you. I'm excited to not talk about rookies. I know it's February 7th, but it feels like everywhere I turn, everybody's talking about rookies, and
yep.
I like the break from it. I like the more unique shows that I get to hear out there.
Definitely. All right, like I said, we're running a little bit late, so go ahead and just jump right into news and notes.
News and notes from around the league.
We had a pretty big trade happen since our last show, and we'll talk about that really quick here. Scott, I'll go to you first on your thoughts on the Sam Darnold train to Carolina. What's it do for the Panthers' skill players, and what's it mean for the Jets? Are they taking Zach Wilson at number 2?
Yeah. I don't think anyone has that in question, right? I feel like Steve Young has telegraphed that as well, that's the pick that's happening. For the Jets, I guess we'll see. It's going to be a completely new offense now, so we'll see there. I don't know how much I'm going to trust Jets players in year one here under that.
Agreed.
But for the Panthers, he's got a better downfield arm. He's better outside the pocket than Teddy was. It's going to be better for everyone involved. I feel like DJ Moore has proven himself a little bit more QB proof than people are giving him credit for. He's done well under like Will Greer and stuff.
Yeah,
So, you know what I
exactly.
mean? So I think it's an upgrade all around, but it's mostly an upgrade for Sam Darnold. Like he's a guy that was your QB3 in Superflex leagues, and you were okay about it, and now you're like, maybe I could handle having him on my team. Maybe I might be interested in him now. So definite value bump there for him.
Definitely. Ryan, I want to go to you on your thoughts. I know you're a DJ Moore truther, and you always have been. What are your thoughts with Darnold and DJ Moore here?
I am. He's the worst back-to-back 1,100-yard receiver in the league, apparently. But I honestly, just if that offense can get more red zone targets, which hopefully Darnold can do because he's spreading the ball, you add 2 to 3 touchdowns to Moore, you have him borderline wide receiver 1, and I'm confident with that. I don't think he's much of a change for Robbie Anderson. He had a career year. But as I said, it's the biggest things for Darnold and how it kind of locks the draft up and making everything pretty confident through the top half.
And so there's one guy we haven't talked about yet, kind of the elephant in the room. I'm going to go to you. Christian McCaffrey. What does it do for his value, you think?
Honestly, I don't really think it's going to affect Christian McCaffrey much. I think he's such a playmaker and he's such a huge part of that offense. I don't think it's really going to do anything to him. I think, like it's already been mentioned, I feel like this is mostly a huge upgrade for Sam Darnold. I feel like I might be a little bit more optimistic about his talent. And I think this upcoming season we're going to be able to see, just how bad or potentially good he actually is.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, I agree. I think Christian McCaffrey's pretty much stays the same. I think if you look at that first year of Le'Veon Bell with the Jets, he had a ton of targets that year from Darnold. So I think the checkdowns are definitely going to be there for Christian McCaffrey. And he's Christian McCaffrey. They'll find a way to get him the ball for sure. So I think it doesn't affect his value whatsoever. The other 2 notes I had here, we'll just skip them. I had Anthony Miller in the trade block, and Gio Bernard was released. Nothing major there, but since we're running a little bit late, we'll just kind of skip right over to our Dynasty startup draft strategy. A lot of leagues right now are kind of starting up. The draft is right around the corner here. Scott, I want to go to you first. Just some general strategy that you take when you're going to a startup draft. What are some of the things that you like to do? Trade up, trade down? Do you go receiver heavy early because they have the longer careers? Like, what do you do?
Scott 10 years ago would have been going all receivers and young and making sure I had a long run. Scott in 2020, 2021 type, I'm trying to win my leagues every year. So many people are doing productive struggles that it almost takes half the league out of the race for the first year.
Good point.
And I have found myself trading out like I was just talking to a guy last week that I traded up 3 rounds last year in a startup to grab DK Metcalf in the third. I'm like, I don't care that I lost rookie picks this year. I got DK in the third.
Right.
I'm the guy that trades up to try to get better starters to try to win that first year. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, I know how to retool. I've been playing Dynasty 29 years. I know how to retool.
Yeah, you've been playing Dynasty longer than I've been playing Fantasy. I've been playing Fantasy for 23. So
I'm if I'm doing anything, I'm probably trading up and I'm getting that better starting roster, and I'm reloading the back end of my team with youth and young players while I have that good starting roster. That's my general go-to.
Definitely. What about you,
It's
Unicorn?
all preference call, though. I don't have any problem with anybody doing any method, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, it's all strategy, and depending on how you want to build your team, and it's Dynasty, so it's a marathon. So even if you mess up in the startup, there's still plenty of times to get things turned around. Anything you have, Unicorn, that you like to do in your startups? Unicorn?
I think I honestly try to stay away. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I'm lagging a bit, but I feel like I try not to do too much with trading around for my pick. I tend to go pretty running back heavy, especially up front. And then I think second to that would be wide receivers. I'm really, really big on running backs and then wide receivers.
Yeah, so you go running backs early and then get your receivers in that sort of, because I think the receiver position is so deep that you can wait a couple rounds, whereas running backs, they run out pretty quickly.
Exactly. I tend to get them really early.
And Ryan, I know some of your strategies. You like to move around all over the board, don't you?
I do. So like early on, I want to move up. The reason I did it because if you think a year down, it's a lot harder to trade for, like you mentioned, DK Metcalf or an elite running back. It's a lot harder to trade for them than you're going to try to get another wide receiver too. So I want to get the elite guys. If I can get 2 first-round picks, I'm ecstatic, even if I missed in the third. But I like that. I like moving back incrementally, like 1 or 2 spots and picking extra stuff up there, just a little bit. But if I have a guy I want, or if there's a tier break, I'm all for trading up. Like on my draft I traded up to get Will Fuller because the next receiver available isn't a starter.
Right.
Like I'm moving up to get those guys when there's a tier break. If I'm not confident with the pick, or if I like anybody, that's when you move back and accumulate.
Agreed. Yeah, I think I'm kind of the guy that kind of everybody hates in Dynasty Leagues because I wait till my pick is actually on the clock before I start making trades. Like, I'm not really looking ahead. I want to see who's available at my pick when I get there. If someone I love, I'm just going to draft them. But if I get to the point where I'm like, oh, man, the 2 guys that I wanted that I had kind of pegged, they went right before I got my pick up, then I'm looking to move it, and I might take a little bit longer to make my pick because I'm trying to move that pick and move back a few spots. But like Ryan said, I think if it's a tier break, if there's a guy that I like, I know it's coming up, and I see this guy falling, I'm definitely trying to trade up to move up. I still kind of hold true to the receiver early. I still do that. I've done it in a pretty good amount of my leagues, and then I just spend all my rookie picks in the next couple of drafts just drafting running backs. I know it's sort of the old strategy now, where it used to be the accepted strategy. Now it's running back early and then get your receivers. But I still go receiver early. In my main dynasty league, my first year, I got like Mike Evans and Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen. All those guys are still elite level receivers when they were young. I got them early, and now I have Christian McCaffrey and Nick Chubb on my team too. So I drafted them as rookies. So it really doesn't really matter either way which way you go. It's just having a strategy, I think, is really important in what you want to do and how you want to build your team.
Scott, with yours you're talking about you're trying to win now right off the bat. Do you kind of skip picking out on picks that year if the rookie picks are included and just go with proven talent in majority of the cases then?
No, not always. It depends on the value on the board at the time, because some of those early rookie picks can be a starter in your lineup. And this question really depends on what style of draft. Like I have a very different. Like I generally play in Superflex and tight end premium leagues, so I would start my draft a little differently than I would in a regular startup. In a regular startup, I think what I said is pretty much what I would do. But with that win now strategy, I don't have positional strategy. I'm trying to get the best players that are going to perform for me in this first couple of years. Yeah. And honestly, the data suggests trying to plan for anything past 3 years is almost a fool's errand anyway. Yep. So I think that's why I've switched my thinking to that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Speaking of Superflex leagues, just roll right into my next question here, Scott. In your leagues, let's say it's a standard like size 12 team league, Superflex. Is there a comfortable number of quarterbacks you're looking for? Like, you're like, by the end of this draft, I want to have 3 quarterbacks, or I want to have 4 quarterbacks, or is it just a matter of who falls to you?
Yeah, there's not a number, but I'm always grabbing a couple early, probably earlier than most would suggest, because like I've learned that the cheapest place I played in Superflex, like SFB1 was Superflex. That was 2010. I played in Superflex for over a decade. The cheapest place to get a quarterback in a Superflex league is the startup draft or auction. So that's where I tried to load up on good young quarterbacks, and I try to get 2 starters. If I can get a third, even if it's like a lower end starter, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to try to load that back end with, potential rookies or young guys or backups that might have an opportunity to get in. But if I'm not getting 2 starters in the first 4 or 5 rounds, I'm probably going to really cry if I'm in a super flex draft and I can't get at least that.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm a little bullish on that.
Agreed. Ryan, what are your strategies there with Superflex League? Are you getting a couple quarterbacks at the top and drafting some ones guys later? How are you looking at it?
I like to take one early, and I'm somebody who's a little more patient. Like, I'd wait for a Matt Ryan because he's somebody who's been following. But, I mean, if you're at the turn, I think it depends when you draft. It really does. If you're early and you get Mahomes or somebody, maybe you can afford to wait for the second QB. But if you get the end, you get 2 guys who are really quality. I'm fine with that. But it's more of how the draft falls.
Yeah, I think I agree there, too. I think that's pretty much a standard. This question here, I actually wasn't going to include it until I saw a TikTok from Miss Unicorn over there regarding 0 RB. Where do you fall on 0 RB? I'm curious because I saw your TikTok, but tell all the listeners about it.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, I was just messing around because I've noticed a lot of people in the fantasy Twitter space or whatever love the 0 RB approach, and I just can't get behind it. I love my running backs, and speaking of where you kind of draft quarterbacks, in a super flex, my first 2 picks in a super flex are either going to be a running back or a quarterback, like my primary quarterback. If I don't take quarterback number 1, I'm taking a running back number 1. And then second will be, the other. So
right.
I definitely go early and hard with running backs. And it's, sort of my strategy, and it's sort of just I love running backs. So I like to make sure I get, a really solid starter on my team quick and early, and then kind of worry about filling in gaps as I go.
Yeah, I know 0 RB is one of those strategies that I think have kind of tapered off a little bit. It was popular there for a little while. But I have noticed, Scott, in the Scott Fishbowl, you almost have to try to be different sometimes because there's so many teams. And I've seen guys that go 0 RB and been successful out of it. Have you seen any success with the 0 RB strategy?
Well, SFB is a little different in that I put countless hours into making the scoring balance throughout the positions. So it really puts you in a situation where you can apply any strategy and be successful. You can apply any strategy and be like, it's super flex. So I got these quarterbacks, I feel good. Or it's tight end premium, I got these tight ends, I feel good. It's points per first down, which generally ups running backs. I feel good. It's PPR, wide receivers feel good. Whatever I do, I make it balanced throughout so that no matter what strategy you try, you're probably going to feel good in some way and or it can succeed in some way. So I don't think SFB is a great example for that, but just on the 0 running back thing, I mentioned before, I'm just not I'm not a guy who plays a positional strategy. That's not the way I play.
Yeah, I agree there. I think you kind of let the draft come to you. I've never been a 0 RB guy. I did mention that I take receivers early in my dynasty, but it doesn't mean I avoid running backs. If one of them happens to fall to me and I think that's the guy I want, then I'm going to take him. I don't necessarily try to avoid running backs. You kind of let the draft come to you.
I'm normally more like Unicorn. I normally grab a good running back or 2. I got 3 leagues right now where I have Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, and Christian McCaffrey on the same team, and the other one has Cook and McCaffrey and Kamara. I have teams with these super studs, but then I'm in this. I started a dynasty league. I got in a dynasty league last year with a lot of guys like the Evan Silvas and Matthew Berries and Ryan McDowell and a bunch of guys you would know. And I didn't take any running backs. My number 1 running back is Antonio Gibson. So I don't have a set. I'll go any strategy as long as I think it's going to work.
Nice. I like it. Ryan, I know you fall on 0 RB, but what are your thoughts on it just in general?
I'm not a big 0 RB fan. I'm very strict. I'm just follow the draft board in BPA. If I don't mind going 1 RB, really elite RB, and kind of waiting in draft. So if I get a Kamara, I can kind of work that other running back spot with a rotation if I get really good value other places. It's not my preferred method, but that's as close as I probably get 0 RB. I like having a sit and forget it.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. Scott, so you've done a ton of startups, obviously. I'm curious to how you like to handle your startups that are pre-NFL draft. Do you like to draft the rookies without knowing a landing spot? Do you draft just the spot, like you draft the 101, the 102, the 103, or do you just have two separate drafts and just go opposite order of what you drafted in the startup draft?
So that league I was just talking about, we drafted picks as part of the startup, and that's a Scott Bear thing. He just loves to do that, and I really enjoy it as well, and I like it a lot more nowadays, the last couple of years, than I did before, because I was big into Devy. Like, I drafted Adrian Peterson when he was a senior in high school in the league. I used to know most of the players from high school through college, and so I would have preferred rookies like in the draft before they get drafted, because I knew of them and it was an edge for me.
Right.
But now, as I've gotten older and I'm busier and I don't have as much time to dive into players as much as possible, and I just like having more knowledge. I've turned into a rookie picks part of, if I'm drafting before the NFL draft, I've turned into a guy that kind of prefers just having the picks included in the startup.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think I did that for the first time last year in a startup draft, and I like the way that it worked out. You can kind of, if you decide you want to go early rookie, like Ryan, I know you mentioned before the show that there's a guy in one of your startups right now that drafted half of his draft right now as rookie picks. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's like 17 out of 32 picks have been rookie picks. It's absurd.
That is insane. Is that what you prefer, Ryan? Is that how you like to do it with the rookie picks?
I do. I mean, I like to draft Nick, so I think it's fun to do it with the players in there. But to get 12 people who know what's going on, where it ends up being fair, that's a little different. If you want to play the league and have an advantage, yeah. But the picks are the fair thing. But you can find huge advantages when people are just picking numbers and don't realize what draft pick it is and lets talent fall. So there's an advantage to it as well.
Agreed. What are your thoughts, Unicorn? Do you like taking the picks in your startups, or do you like taking the rookies, or do you just want to have two separate drafts?
I've been in leagues where all of them have happened, and I feel like I don't mind like taking the rookie draft picks in a startup, but I do kind of like to have two separate drafts, just because I feel like it kind of lets me focus more on each separate area individually, and I like to wait until after the draft to draft rookies. But I feel like my second go-to would be just having it combined, and just figuring it out.
Yeah, I agree. I think one that I did last year, they just waited after the NFL draft and just included the rookies in there with landing spots. So I think that's also another method that you could do for those of us that aren't as hardcore, that want to draft immediately after the NFL season ends. We want to draft right away. So just be patient and wait till after the NFL draft to pick up your stuff. So yeah, I like that. So let me just go around the room and ask your preferred fantasy format. I mean, Dynasty, you got Vampire Leagues, you got Guillotine League, you got the crazy things that Scott does with some of his leagues. Ryan, what's your favorite format to play in?
Really deep IDP leagues. Like 11 players offense, 11 players defense, huge benches. Like ours right now, they let me in charge commission. It's 53-man roster.
Oh my god!
I'm really excited about it. We're halfway through. It's fun.
That's insane.
But I like the deep leagues where you can win a lot of ways with really even scoring. I don't think I'll do a league without the SFB quarterback scoring from last year. It's my favorite thing I've seen. I'm obsessed with it. It's great.
Yeah, I adopted that in our Writers League too for going for two. I had the same scoring as the Scott Fishbowl this past one. So yeah, I definitely like that. Unicorn, what's your favorite fantasy format?
I just like Dynasty Superflex. I think that's my favorite.
Yeah, just the just the Superflex. Just redraft or Dynasty? Do you prefer one?
Dynasty. Yeah, I prefer Dynasty. I always like to have a couple redraft leagues going. It's just, it's just kind of something fun on the side. But I prefer Dynasty and I prefer Superflex.
Yeah, I agreed. Scott?
Yeah, I don't have one, and I don't think I ever will. I think I'm always going to be the guy that's consistently trying to innovate some kind of new redraft or dynasty format year after year. I went from like Unicorn. I always have a bunch of different interesting redraft leagues on the side because I got to a point where I was in 35 dynasty leagues where you set lineups and do waivers and all that stuff every week. In fact, I coded and developed a tool just to handle it all. And I'm like, I need to cut this down. I got myself well under 10. And then I realized I'm going to fill up that spare time with fun redraft leagues that I can drop after a year if I,
Right.
And it allows me to test new formats. But I'm never going to have a favorite just because my new favorite changes every year.
Every year.
I could go into a bunch of different kinds, but that's just the way it works.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think so. My favorite, I think, overall is Dynasty. I like one quarterback leagues. I do play in Superflex leagues as well, but I still prefer one quarterback. But there is one redraft league that I played in last year, and it was a lot of fun. It was a 16-team guillotine league, but the trick was it was 4 divisions, and each division was a team in itself, and you were basically encouraged to collaborate. You could trade players each week. I got a guy on the bench. Let me trade you my bench players. So you have a better running back this week. And the goal was to get one of your teams from your division into the finals. And of course, each week one team got eliminated. So it was a lot of fun. I think just drafting that way, we kind of were able to collaborate on okay, we're going to take a run on quarterbacks. Everyone take quarterbacks in this round. We're going to wipe the quarterbacks clean, and then the camaraderie in the season as well, trying to work towards that one common goal of getting one of us into the championship game is pretty cool.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah. Teamwork leagues are awesome. I wish they'd catch on, like more styles of teamwork leagues that you're like 18 team league where there's 3 groups of 6 and stuff. And like, man, I love them. I wish they'd catch on more. They tend to be commission intensive, but they're pretty awesome.
Yeah. If my first time doing one of them, and I'm hoping they does it again this year, because it was a lot of fun. I mean, the 4 guys that I had in my group, I ended up being the runner up overall. I got all the way to the final game and my guys decided to not show up, but it was fun. I had a lot of fun playing it. All right, let's see. What else we got on here that I kind of got off track here? Is there any league rules or formats that you will not play in, Ryan? Anything that, like trade vetoes, standard league with no PPR, touchdown-only leagues, point per carry league, some of these weird leagues. Anyone that you're like, no, I'm not playing in that league. It just seems not fun for me.
Touchdown only doesn't sound fun.
Hey.
To be honest, the sound of that sounds terrible. Honestly, I'm not even a big best ball person. I just do it for like active mock drafts. Like that's not fun for me because I like setting the lineup portion. Doesn't mean I won't do a bunch of them, but like I don't love them.
Right. Yeah, best balls has kind of grown on me a little bit because a friend of mine was kind of like, best balls are kind of like the mock draft where you can prove that you had the best mock draft by the end of the season. Usually you do mock drafts and everyone thinks theirs is the best. A best ball is kind of like, okay, we had the mock draft all the way back in February and my team won, so obviously I had the best mock draft. So that's kind of how I look at best balls. What about you, Unicorn? Is there anything that you typically avoid in leagues that you just won't play in?
I feel like I'm pretty open to a lot of things, especially depending on what the buy-in is.
Right.
I like trying different things and messing around, even if it's not really my preferred format. I definitely do prefer to not play in standard leagues. I prefer PPR, but I'll still do it.
Yeah, Kyle in the chat just mentioned the official position of going for 2 is we have no kickers. As you can see, my hat says no kickers right across the front there. We don't play with kickers in any of my leagues.
No.
What about you, Scott? Is there any leagues you just won't play in?
For me, not really. I mean, there's stuff I've learned I like less, and I apologize to Kyle in the chat, but I don't play in contract or salary cap leagues anymore. It just ended up taking too much of my time. It's not that I didn't. I was okay with it, but it just I didn't love it, and it took too much of my time. I only play in one IDP league. Sorry, Ryan.
That's fine.
but it's with a really, really awesome group, and it's enough to keep my beak wet on the IDP side without getting it's your typical like 10 offensive starters, 11 defensive starters. So it's not like one of those silly 3 IDP player leagues or whatever. It keeps me interested in it. But and by the way, my league that's 29 years old going into year 30 started as touchdown only. What's your problem, man? It's changed over the years, but I cannot understate how awesome it was growing up in the 90s when, like, without the internet, and like a touchdown would happen on the screen and it was the biggest thing for your fantasy team, or the pop-up would be like do 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 do, and it would pop up and you'd be just scouring for those touchdowns.
That would be awesome. See, that would
it was
awesome.
Amazing. Yeah,
I think
back without the internet, that's great because that's the only thing you do.
Back without the internet.
Back then, they didn't even have stats back then, right? They just had touchdowns only. That's all you could get.
Oh, yeah. But no, I don't have a lot that I do. I just bounce around from types, as you can imagine. I try it all, but yeah, there's not too many that I really, really hate.
Yeah,
there's settings and rules that I don't like, but we don't need to go into that.
Yeah, I say the only one setting that I probably would definitely avoid is the trade veto. I don't like trade vetoes. I won't play in a league with trade vetoes. I think that's the best part of the game, and with any kind of voting on a trade, I don't like those. I was just assumed not to play in those. If you need to have a trade veto, then the league isn't experienced enough, I think, to be a league, in my opinion. That's just how I feel about it, though. All right, one last question. We'll go in the room here, and then we'll take a quick break here. Ryan, if you could give a piece of advice to someone that's starting off their first startup here, what's a piece of advice that you want to tell them that maybe you didn't learn right away?
Honestly, one thing is just try not to play that far in advance. Like trying to play a guy who's going to break out in 3 or 4 years. The window's closed. You can get talent quickly. You can rebuild in a year. Like, don't go that young. Like, get solid stuff in your lineup, not just prospecting.
Agreed. I like that. I like that advice. Scott, what you got for some advice for some young guys starting out here?
Boy, have fun.
Yeah,
I think that's number one. I actually think in my head it would be more along the lines of jump in a league where, like, you probably know the people and you would enjoy playing with them, with settings that you think you would enjoy, because dynasties are long-term commitments, and I'm generally very cool with people dropping a dynasty league if they don't like it. But if you're gonna try to join one, try to do your work and see if it's something that you think you would enjoy. Leave the testing of settings at least to the redraft leagues and be like, you can test them out there, but if you're going to join a dynasty league, at least join one with the settings that you enjoy and you think you could enjoy long term. Because committed owners, I mean, like I cherish commitment in owners. I think with the dynasty league, you want to be in it for the long haul, and I think that would be one. Have fun and join a league that you think you would actually enjoy long term.
I like that advice. What about you, Unicorn? Any advice for anybody new?
I think in terms of dynasty, I'd say to not overvalue quarterback age. I feel that's something that I see happen a lot, where just because somebody's younger, you have a certain perspective on their value, and I feel like a lot of times that can, bite you in the ass, because there are quite a few quarterbacks out there that are, considered older, that are give you really good value, especially with their ADP. And then, like Brian kind of mentioned, you're going to backfill every year. So, it's not something I feel like to get too wrapped up in.
Yeah, I think you kind of stole my thunder there, because that was kind of what I was going to say. I was going to go even beyond just quarterback.
Oh.
Just in general, age in general. I think, you hear guys like, oh, Stephon Diggs is old. And I'm like, Stephon Diggs is not that old. He's got plenty of years left for, just because he's not a second or third year player doesn't mean he's old. Keenan Allen, he's old. I mean, he's like 28, 29. He's definitely not old. He's got plenty of good years left. So don't look at the age too much. I think, some players still have plenty of good years. I've heard the narrative that Matthew Stafford is going to have a couple years left. He's still pretty young for a quarterback. I think he's got a good 4 or 5 years left of being a good quarterback there in LA. So yeah, those kind of guys, I take those in my dynasty startups. Those are the guys that everybody's trying to avoid. Yeah, sure, give them to me. I'll take those guys all day long. All right, NFL draft season is upon us, and it's possible you might have Trevor Lawrence's haircut in your pants. That's why our new partners at Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have teamed up with us to make sure you don't gamble when shaving your balls the way you gamble on football. For all my Armchair Fantasy fans, we have an exclusive 20% promo code right now. If you use Armchair Fantasy 20, at manscaped.com. Armchair20 at manscaped.com. You get 20% off and free shipping. Again, our code is armchair20 at manscaped.com. 20% and free shipping. So make sure you check that out. And now a word from my other sponsors.
Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports and esports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive's game concept revolves around player props, which are simple over-unders on player stats. There are contests for traditional sports including the NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, and cricket, as well as esports titles including CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, and more coming soon. Here's how to play. Choose your lineup of over-unders for top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Each prop has a fantasy point total based on how likely it is to hit. The more points a selection is worth, the riskier it is. Rack up the most points and win a share of the prize pool. Thrive is awarded over $2 million in cash, so come and prop up today.
All right, welcome back. I'm here with Scott, Unicorn, and Ryan, and now we are going to do some listener questions. I polled Twitter, I polled Facebook, I polled Discord. We got some great questions here that we're going to attempt to answer. And the first one here is kind of a big one that I've heard sort of all over the kind of Twitter right now, and people knowing what to do. It comes from Michael Huff on Twitter at the FF Realist. It's a commissioner question, and as far as how we're handling the extra week in the NFL this year, there's still only one bye, but we have an extra week now. Are we extending our championship game? Like, what are we doing, Scott? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so we Ryan and I on Commission Impossible have gotten this one a lot, which is funny because we did an episode with it May of 2020. Ryan and I are ahead of a little more hardcore, and they're probably setting their own schedules maybe, but most are going to do what the host site allows. Ryan and I, we're actually either doing nothing and seeing what the NFL teams actually do with week 17 and week 18, see if they, potentially, do something with resting their starters, like
right.
Rest on 1 week, because it's a longer season.
Yep.
Or we're just removing a little bit of luck out of that championship game and making it a 2-week championship. We both feel a little better doing that than adding an extra week to the regular season, which would be more fun for everybody to play an extra week. You get all 12 teams in your league playing an extra week, but we think the benefit of removing a little more luck from that championship game and maybe a little more tension and a little more trash talk might be a little more, and it's also probably a little easier to do. You can keep the same schedule and then just add the extra scores on if you don't want to change things up in your league. So, I guess that's my answer. It's probably one of those two things for this first year, and then I'll play it by ear next year.
Gotcha. Now, I did have a question for you because I thought about the same thing as well, and I don't know, the schedule hasn't been released yet, but I think right now, most championship games have been released officially. Is there any bye weeks in that week 13, 14 range?
Oh, no, they just released the 17.
Right.
This week 17
the actual
schedule.
Yeah. I'm curious, do the bye weeks extend into what would be the fantasy playoffs if you don't change your format?
So only twice has there been a bye week in week 13 or later, and I feel like and once was because I was gonna say once was because of moved game, but that was not the case. That's right. That was legit. So twice legit. There have been a week 13 bye. It's good. It might happen. But it's just something you're going to have to deal with. The way I'm still doing it is 1 through 13 and then 14 through 16 or 14 through 16 plus the extra championship game. So
right.
I don't think they're going to be throwing buys all the way late in week 14, but you never know. We have no idea at this point.
Yeah, agreed. Ryan, have you thought about this in any of your leagues yet as far as what y'all are going to do?
No, I knew Scott was coming. He's a better commissioner than me.
See what he's doing and just follow suit. There you go.
What about? I like the 2-round championship idea.
I wouldn't play week 18 though. Just to
Yeah, dead.
No, I don't like the idea.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the 2-week championship in general, so I like that idea.
All right, Unicorn. Any extra thoughts on there, or you think the same way?
No, yeah, I kind of agree with all of what you guys have said. Kind of lucky for me, I'm not commissioning any league, so I don't have to be the one to make that decision.
There you go. That's an easy way to do it. Just join the league and just do what they have them do with it. All right. The next question we have is from Jason Aguirre on Facebook, and he wants to know, why should Dynasty or redraft players switch to Superflex? Like, what's the advantage or what makes them funner than a regular league? Unicorn, you said you like Superflex leagues. I'll let you go first on this one.
I think Superflex leagues are just more fun because it in one way it kind of creates a little and just another element of competition. It's another kind of layer that you have to think about when you're working on your strategy for your draft. And I think it's really fun. It's in a position though that I think is not. I've seen crazy things like kicker premium and stuff like that, where you're putting a lot of value on a position that's not really that significant on a team, right? But I feel like with Superflex, you're kind of putting that extra value on a player that is super significant, and there's not as many of them to go around, right? So it kind of it makes it a little more competitive, but in a really fun way.
Yeah, I like it. I think that it also makes those quarterbacks so much more valuable, like the actual NFL, where they are the most valuable position. So that kind of creates that. For the longest time, I was against Superflex leagues. Honestly, the first one I ever played in was the first Scott Fish Bowls I was ever in, and it just kind of grew on me. I'm like, okay, I could see where this kind of works out, and I started doing that in some more of my leagues. So I was late to come around in Superflex leagues, but I definitely like them now. Next question we got is from P2W Fantasy. He's on Twitter at P2W Fantasy. It's a commissioner question, and Scott, I'm going to go to you on this one. If a team in your league is successful but not very active, how do you address that? Do you just let it slide, or how do you handle that? If he just doesn't trade, doesn't talk in the chats, that kind of stuff, he's just not a very active owner.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess this is just a general question and not for his league specifically, and I'll address it like it's just a general question. If somebody's in a league and there's a guy like this, I think I need you to define what you mean by not active. Like, does he not respond to trade offers? I guess you could put in a rule that requires you have to respond to all trade offers or something. But does he not do waivers? Is it things like that? Because if it's those, you can't do much. He's successful, and if he's setting his lineup, if he's making his draft picks, and he's successful at it, clearly he's drafting better than you.
Yeah, exactly.
if he's not doing waivers and not making trades, and he's simply doing the drafts and the lineups, clearly he knows what he's doing out there.
Exactly.
But I think if he's not active in that he's timing out on his draft picks and stuff like that, or he's missing lineups, which if he's successful, he's probably not doing that, then you could make rules, and probably if you just don't like him in the league, you can just get rid of him. But honestly, why harsh the way someone manages his team? I'm going to put this right there with trade vetoing, honestly. Like, don't try to I don't understand people's need to try to control what other people do with their teams, honestly. Yep. Like, as long as he's not doing stuff that's upsetting like the league, like with missing draft picks, or not setting lineups where it can make a competitive advantage for other teams, let him manage his team how he wants. He's clearly successful doing it, so I think that's how I would answer that. But if you really are hardcore about getting this guy out of the league, you can just let him out. You can make rules that says you have to, respond to every trade offer. Maybe that'll help. But honestly, let him run his team.
Yeah, I've always been like that, especially if it's a pay league. You paid your money, it's your team. Manage it how you wish to manage it. Every league needs a Jets and a Browns team. So, if they're going to be bad and not play very well, then that's on them. If they're going to trade their good players away, that's on them. So, I think
that's where it comes in different. Like, if he starts to be a team that's always bad and he's, making bad trades, we're coming into a different, and he's not very active. Yep. That's a completely different area. If he's managing his team the way he wants and he's good at it, that's just the way he is in your league.
Yep.
All owners are different.
Agreed. Next question, Ryan. I'm gonna go to you on this one. This is from our friend Jay Batts, who's been on the show a couple of times. What's one of your favorite rule changes you've implemented over the years, as in your home leagues as commish?
Honestly, one of my favorites is heavy flex over having like 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 1 or 2 flex. I'd rather have 1 starter at all in 4 flex or lineups where you can just play all flex or super flex. I think that's so much more fun just because I like the element of team building and doing it how you want. And it makes all kinds of strategies out the door.
Yeah, I'm gonna open this up to you, Scott, as well. Any rule changes that you've implemented that you just love over the years?
Yeah, I fall in love with some of the rules I make, and then I fall out of love with them. Like the QB scoring league rule, the QB scoring from last year in SFBX, I've fallen deeply in love with, and I want to use it in all my leagues going forward. But in 4 years, maybe I won't. But in my Capitalist Pigs leagues, I made the fab money the money used for every single auction, and it rolls over year to year. I absolutely love that. I think one of my favorite rules that I have in my leagues is that waivers during the off season. We don't have first comes first serve waivers. We don't have like a blind bid each week. We have an auction board open all off season long. And if you see a guy in waivers you want, you put him on the auction block for $1 and you got a bid on him. I like having that auction board open all off season. It creates a little bit of league activity, and it's just a fun way to do it.
Yeah, I like that. And Unicorn, you said you don't commission any leagues, so I won't open that question up to you, but I do have one for you. Okay. So this is not just for a commissioner, but just in general. What's one of the most egregious things you've ever seen in one of your leagues that you've been in? Anything that someone did that you just were kind of like, why would they do that? Sorry, I kind of caught you on the spot there.
That's okay. I don't think that I've seen anything really egregious, to be honest.
Anybody else have anything they want to mention?
I have so many that I could mention, and I have so many that like I shouldn't mention because because my company's legal would say, you know what, don't talk about that on a podcast. We don't need you, airing full stuff. It's funny where like if we catch a couple people cheating or whatever, I will write up 10 pages of evidence like this. I'll send it to my compliance and legal people, and the response they send these 2 people is like 3 sentences. I'm like, and then they'll reply back, and legal will send another message to them like 2 sentences. And I'm like, I have 10 pages here, but really that's not what you do. You're just like, we caught you. This is it. Goodbye. If it were to go to court or something, then But this is the legal side of fantasy.
Right,
this isn't your normal. But yes, I've caught a lot of pretty egregious stuff out there in the fantasy world. I won't go into details though. I think that's maybe for an off-air thing.
Yeah, there you go. Agreed. Yeah, I always find that funny. Some of the tweets you put out, not talking about necessarily egregious things in the leagues, but the guys that don't get into the Scott Fish Bowl and some of the things that you've tweeted out, like how they react and how is that going to help them get into the Scott Fish Bowl in the future? Just like you're just shooting yourself in the foot, basically.
Yeah, it's pretty unreal. I did not ever 5 years ago even. I did not ever see it coming to the day where people would get ridiculous, like the amount of hate. Like there's so much love out there around that event, but behind the scenes there's a decent amount of private hate at not getting in or whatever. It's really frustrating.
Agreed. All right, let's do one more. I actually opened this up for Ryan and for Unicorn. You can just chime in here. Have you ever done a full-on rebuild in your dynasty leagues? Basically, trade away all your assets, all your players for current and future draft picks. And what's your overall opinion on this?
Yeah, I've done it. I mean, it's not. I feel like when you say trade away everything, I have a spreadsheet with all my players and their ages. And any player over the age of 25, I burned. But the thing is, when I do it, it's not all at once. I think the biggest thing you can do when you're rebuilding is rush it. Because if you're making these, by like week 3 or 4, you can play selling your assets on when a team needs them or when a player strikes hot. And that's when you move them. But you can do it, and you can do it quickly. But yeah, get first-round picks, trade them all the way through. It doesn't have to be a 3-year thing.
Yeah.
But I've done them before.
What about you,
They're
Unicorn?
fun.
Any thoughts on trading away assets to get younger?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not opposed to it. Luckily, I haven't been in that position yet. I've only been playing Dynasty for 2 years, so I haven't been in the position of, a total rebuild or anything like that. But I definitely like Ryan's points of, not really trying to go at it all at once.
Yeah, I like that. And that question was from Gerson Aguirre. You can follow him on Twitter at FantasyGDFS. He's in the chat, so I want to make sure to shout him out. And just one last question, Scott, this one specifically for you that I wanted to get to. I've heard this story before, but you'd be surprised how many guys on Facebook haven't heard of you. And it surprises me whenever I talk about him, but you're well known on Twitter, but in Facebook it seems to be a different world. But how was the Scott Fishbowl created? Like, how did this first come about?
Yeah, so it was a listener/reader league for a site I ran at the time called FF Oasis. I went around the industry grabbing as many people from as many sites as I could to come play, just analysts to come play with the fans of my site. And basically, as anything like this happens, it just, once you get Mike Clay and guys like that to play in the first SFB, the second SFB, it's easier to say, hey, this guy plays in it. So they come along, bigger, more and more analysts come and join, and that brings on their, fan bases or their listener bases. They're like, we want to play too. And after 10 years of that, it's steamrolled to the point that just everybody plays. And it didn't hurt that, 5 or so years ago, we added a charitable element. It's crazy because I was preaching on radio and podcasts over a decade, for like maybe not over a decade, for about a decade, about adding a charitable element to your league. Take one entry fee, throw it to charity. No one's going to miss it. You're going to feel great about it. 100,000 leagues out there. We could do a lot of good. Like, I've tagged radio spots with that for a decade. And it was only about 5 years ago that we added that to SFB. And when that happened, then it really started to blow up, because not only are you playing with all these people you want to play with, you're also doing something for good, and like, it's something people want to get behind. Yep. So that's kind of how it blew up and exploded.
Yeah, it's awesome how that, not only the Scott Fishbowl in itself and the amount of money that you raise, but all the side leagues, the leagues that are now doing the same kind of thing. I have a DFS league that I do now that honestly I would have never even thought about doing a DFS league for charity until I saw the Scott Fishbowl, and it's really cool that whole time frame. When you're doing the whole Scott Fishbowl thing between getting picked and then obviously the drafts and everything else, it's such a fun time. It's one of my favorite times of the year.
It's amazing that this exists out there. I remember watching from the early days of Devi to now Devi's a thing. Like the same thing with charity. Like, there's charity things everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I remember doing radio spots and getting silenced to that. And one host, and I will not name who and whatnot, but one host even said something to the effect of, yeah, charity's nice and all, but that's money in the pot that and I'm like, are you serious, man? And now, that would be a really alien, Ryan's eyes lit up, what? Yeah. Nowadays, adding a charitable element, at least in our industry, is almost becoming a norm, and it's just such a beautiful thing to watch happen.
Yeah, agreed. All right, it's time for our favorite segment of the night.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Unicorn, I'm going to go to you first. I hope you still have audio here because I think your screen is frozen, but hopefully we can still hear you.
Yeah, I noticed. I've been frozen for what feels like half an hour. It's the worst.
It's all good. We can still hear you. So give me your Forgotten Fantasy Player.
All right, so my guy's going to be Cortland Sutton.
Oh.
I feel like, just since getting injured, he just hasn't had the same attention as Jerry Jeudy, but I think he definitely should. I think he's a better player.
I like it. Cortland Sutton definitely has been forgotten about, especially when you got Jeudy there. Scott, yeah. I'll go to you next. Who is your Forgotten Fantasy Player?
So I went completely different here. I went with a super long time retired. I wonder if anyone here in the chat that watches this on any of your media outlets will even remember him. Is that okay that I went
That's
that
perfectly
deep?
fine. Yeah, John Lobb does the same thing. He's been on it a few times, and John Lobb always goes back to like.
I love John. I will listen to anything John goes on.
He's awesome.
He is great. John
He's the champion of the segment.
Yeah, he basically he owns the segment.
4 or 5 times.
Yeah, he comes on. He gives us where he was and what he was doing at the time he saw this player. Like he kills it. So.
Oh my gosh. Now I know if I come on again, I'm gonna have to like step it up, like talk about how during my 1995 rookie draft, I jumped on I think it was a chair or a table, and I was like, JJ Stokes is gonna be the next Jerry Rice, and I took him with my, out of UCLA. If you remember that Galloway Westbrook JJ Stokes year, that was a good year for wide receivers. I think all 3 of them went top 10, in fact.
Yep.
But no, I'm going with Dominic Davis, who later changed his name to Dominic Williams. Do you remember DD? Do you remember Dominic Davis? Anybody? Houston Texans?
Nope. That one is nope.
I'm eyeing the chat to see if anyone no.
Silence.
All right, so this is right after like the greatest show on turf Marshall Faulk years, after the work done years, like the early days of the Priest Holmes years, maybe like leading into Larry John, like that type of era where PPR had just like started becoming a thing, and the dual threat back, we called him, was like this big thing, and like the Amon Green stuff were coming up. But anyway, Dominic Davis, rookie year in 2003, 1,400 plus rushing plus receiving yards, 8 touchdowns in just 10 starts. Like he started the last 10 games of the year, had 47 catches. His next year, 1,800 plus rushing receiving yards, 14 touchdowns in 15 games. He had 68 catches on 84 targets. Like he was a machine. And then injuries started to pack up. His third year, he still had over 100 plus total yards and or a touchdown in 10 of his 11 games before getting injured, going on injured reserve, and his career was over.
Oh man.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's all he had was that I think he played a total of maybe 35 games or so.
Wow.
But in an era where PPR was just starting to become a thing, and he was catching 40, 50, 60 balls, 1,400, 1,800 yards, and he was a touchdown scorer too. He had like 14 touchdowns in that second year. Like, oh man. I was all in.
That's a good pull. Yeah, that's a good pull because I played back then, so I should remember this guy, and I'm drawing a blank on him right now. I think people in the chat are saying they know the name now, they recognize him, but I'm still trying to think. I just can't think.
DD is 40 now. I noticed him on Twitter like a few years ago, and I was like, holy crap! I'm like a few months older. I'm 41 now. I'm a few months older than DD, and I was like, wow, I did not realize we were similar age. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
He's Dominic Williams now, so I suppose it's DW now.
DW now. All right, great show, guys. Great show. Let's do a little bit around the room here. Give us again where we can follow you, and if you want to plug anything, Unicorn, I'll go to you first.
Awesome. So yeah, I just want to say thanks so much for having me on here, guys. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties I had getting on and my camera issues and everything, but it's been super fun hanging out. You guys can all find me on Twitter at _Fringe. Definitely check out True North Fantasy Football on YouTube and subscribe. And yeah, it's been super fun.
Good stuff. Scott?
Yeah, just follow me, ScottFish24 on Twitter. That's where I post everything. We'll have some SafeLeagues.com, SafeLeaguesFantasy.com startups next week. You can probably join some of those after MFL's downtime. Yeah, not much else. Just follow me on Twitter. Sign up at ScottFishbowl.com if you haven't to play in the Scott Fish Bowl. If you don't sign up, I can't get you in. Like, that's how it works.
Yep.
Like,
I did sign up, Scott. I did sign up.
I know. I checked to see if all 3 of you were signed up before I came on. But so every year people complain, how do I get in? It's sign up. They complain about not getting in, and they have not signed up. It's crazy how many do.
That's crazy. That's the first thing you got to do right there.
Yep.
Ryan, what you got going on?
Find me on Twitter at Fox534. Find me here every Wednesday night. Find me at the Sports Illustrated Draft Bible. Our podcast normally drops Wednesday mornings. And come check out our draft show this year. We're going to be live during the NFL draft. We're going to have an open link. And pop in, say hi, tell us how you're feeling. Hopefully come in while your team makes his boneheaded pick. Talk to anybody getting Mac Jones. But, like, come have fun with us. I'm really excited about it this year because this format was a blast for the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to plug the same thing. We have a 4-hour marathon. We're going to share our join link out there on social media, so really, literally anybody can jump on. We did it for the Super Bowl. It was awesome. Got some great people showing up. We're going to go for 4 hours. It's going to be fun, so definitely check that out. And then make sure this Sunday, guys, check out the 200th episode. We're going to do our NFL draft, our mock draft here. We got 8 guys coming on to do the mock draft. It should be a lot of fun. All right, for Scott, for Unicorn, for Brian, I'm Jeff. We will see y'all next week.